BFF's cheating ex begged me to ask him to stop his cruelty because she can't stand being ignored. AITA? I might be an a-hole for telling my best friend's ex-wife that she only has herself to blame for him not talking to her anymore. At the beginning of the year, my friend Tom finalized his divorce. Was a messy and toxic situation in both sides. He and his ex-wife Brittany divorced after he discovered she had been having a long-term affair with one of her other friends. Stephen. Tom is usually a level-headed guy, but the affair and subsequent divorce really broke him. I believe that if it weren't for his two boys, he might have considered ending it all. They share custody with Tom, having the boys 60% of the time. The problem now is that he hasn't spoken to Brittany since the divorce was finalized. He picks up and drops off the boys without speaking to her, ignores her at the boys' events, and doesn't interact with her family. I don't think he's doing anything wrong. It's not like he badmouths her in front of the kids. Things escalated when he asked me to pick up the boys because he was unavailable. I agreed, and went to get them when I arrived. Brittany was there as expected. I greeted her and called the boys over after they got in my truck. She asked if we could talk, thinking it was about the kids. I agreed. To my surprise, she broke down crying, saying she knew what she did was wrong, but that Tom couldn't continue to be this cruel. She claimed he was ruining the last bit of stability the boys had, and that her family already hated her for the affair, especially her dad, who saw Tom as a son. I told her she needed to consider the situation, especially since she was still with Stephen. The person who had actually ruined the boys' home was her, not Tom. I ended a conversation by telling her to save her crocodile tears for her F-toy and leave me out of it. I don't think I was wrong, but my girlfriend thinks Tom is taking things too far and that it wasn't my place to get involved and might. And now for the top comments. Not AOL. My in-laws divorced when my husband was 35. Male wasn't even 2 yet. His mom cheated. They had 50-50 custody his entire childhood. His dad hasn't spoken to her in over 30 years now, aside from one time when Hubs got in big trouble in high school for skipping class, and once right after high school when he had surgery for a hernia. What's fascinating is that neither seem to hate each other, at least now anyway. Mother-in-law has never said anything mean about father-in-law, and while father-in-law has rolled his eyes on occasion, he always asks how she is, and has also never said anything mean about her, either. Right now it's fresh and she's desperate not to be the bad guy. Hopefully she'll grow to accept it eventually, like my in-laws did. I will also note that my husband is totally on his dad's side and not talking to his mother, and said many times that while it kind of bugged him as a kid when he didn't fully understand why mom and dad didn't talk, as soon as he was old enough to digest the situation it no longer bugged him, and it felt like she deserved it. Not. Well, it's important to keep lines of communication open to talk about the kids and their stuff. Anything else is just out of kindness. He doesn't owe her anything at all. I would try to be civil around kids, though, especially if they're really young and don't really know what's going on. The boys are 9 out of 10. He is semi-civil, like Aiden's. He won't speak to her if it's not needed. I don't blame him. I'd rather not say anything that risk blowing up at her, as long as he keeps putting the best interests of the kids first. He's good, he's gone. He doesn't speak because there's no reason she ruined their family. She's got to deal with it. Let her go cry on her boyfriend's shoulder. Tom doesn't owe her not one bit of conversation, and your girlfriend has a lot of audacity to say Tom is taking it too far. No, he's doing just fine. He's doing nothing wrong, and the fact your girlfriend is taking the cheater side is mind-boggling. Why the heck should he speak to her? People are right. It's wild how some people think they can just act however they want and then expect everything to go back to normal. Cheaters feel entitled to your attention and get upset when you start to focus on the more important things. It wasn't your business. Then the cheater asked you to get involved. She made it your business. As for Tom, taking it too far, he hasn't badmouthed her to the kids or even told them why the divorce happened. That is an A grade in my book, especially when she's dating the affair partner and crying about how her cheated on ex isn't being nice to her. Frankly, this is a red flag for Opie's girlfriend's morals. She thinks that simply not speaking to someone who destroyed you is taking things too far. Sounds like a guilty conscience. What is she afraid of being punished for that she would care? Next story. Am I an a-hole for going through with ending things with my ex even though she was recently assaulted? I am an attorney. I met my ex-fiancée, 26, female, about 3 years ago. After a year of dating, we moved in together and rented a house this past January. I made partner at my firm, and we got engaged in March. My firm offered me a great opportunity to help open a new office out of state, about 3 hours away. After discussing it, I decided to take the offer. I bought a house at a new location. The lease in our old place was set to end this month, so the plan was for my ex to stay there until the lease was up and then join me. In the meantime, we saw each other nearly every weekend and talked every day. We had a Ring doorbell at the rental house. This detail becomes important later. My ex worked at an art gallery that featured irritating selection of local artists. In May, started noticing him man frequently stopping by T rental house, usually carrying a canvas or something similar. He never stayed more than 10 to 15 minutes. When I asked my ACT about him, she explained that he was a local artist the gallery was working with and that he was dropping off pieces for her to take to the gallery. The frequency of his visits started to bother me. My ex assured me that nothing was going on. In July, during one of my visits, my ex was in a shower when he called. I answered, and his tone made me uncomfortable. After the call, I looked through their text messages that were blatantly flirtatious. I confronted my ex, and she turned pale. She apologized profusely and promised to quit her job. Assuring me that she would find a new one once she moved in with me after the lease ended. Since I make more than enough to support us, I agreed. And she quit her job about a month and a half ago. My ex was involved in a car accident. She was driving my old car and was rear-ended. This was strange. She drove her own car over 95% of the time. However, my old car was the only one we had without GPS tracking, she claimed. She was alone and headed to a restaurant. She liked when the accident occurred. Requested a copy of the police report for the insurance claim, and a location of the accident didn't make sense for where she said she was going. When I confronted her, she admitted she had lied and was actually visiting the artist who lived in the neighborhood. She claimed she was there to see a new painting. I immediately broke up with her. I told her I would continue covering rent through the end of the lease, October 31st, but after that I would no longer provide any support to. Our mutual friends have told me that she has been depressed and barely functioning since then. She does not drink because of some experiences she had in high school, but last weekend she went to a party with friends and got a man took her into a bedroom and assaulted her. Someone overheard her yelling no, and the man was eventually arrested. This has obviously been a traumatic experience for her. She and our mutual friends are now asking me to offer her support, whether financial or otherwise. She has no job, no prospects, and none of our friends are in a position to take her in. Feel bad for her, but I don't think it's my responsibility to provide the support they're asking for. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I noticed you. Wrote she and your mutual friends want you to offer her some support. You already did, then she lied, and you broke up. She is no longer your responsibility. Let her family and friends support her. Also, she doesn't drink normally and went to the party with her friends who knew. That's why the friends weren't watching. They failed her then and now want to pass her off to you. No, sorry, it's horrendous, it happened, but she betrayed you repeatedly and don't get to expect your support or help. Is not an a-hole. You broke up with her. The fact you're still paying rent confuses me. About what happened to her, but it's not up to you to be there anymore. I am on the lease for the rental house, so it is in my best interest to keep paying it, which is why I did it after the breakup. As much as that happened. Not the a-hole. All those friends who are pressuring you needs to look at themselves. Why are they not offering her support? Financial or otherwise. X means you are moving on from each other. She broke your trust, and you felt that a reason to end things with her. You also already were nice enough to cover R to end a fleece. To be fair to the friends, many of them are offering support. Financial support and other issues is that the vast majority of them have kids and are teachers, artists, musicians, etc. So their disposable income is quite limited. She quit her job in July. Why? Wouldn't she move out to be with you at that point? I mean, story-wise, obviously because she was cheating, but logically y'all could have broken the lease early, like you're doing well financially, or she could have moved to you and a friend, neighbor, or one of you could have checked up on the apartment from time to time. We thought about it, but there would have been some logistical issues because new house was being worked on. We had pets at my work schedule. The convo we had was towards the end of July. Her last day at the job was in August. Plus I was truly reassessing the relationship after all of this, so I was not personally interested in accelerating the time. Timline. Next story. Am I an a-hole for telling my cheating wife a day before our daughter's graduation that I would be my wife and I have been divorcing her? Married for 20 years, and we have an 18-year-old daughter who graduated from high school a few months ago. About 6 years ago I discovered that my wife had been cheating on me. The affair lasted for a couple of months. I seriously considered divorce, but my wife was genuinely remorseful. She quit her job, started going to therapy, and committed to all the reconciliation steps I asked for her. Ultimately, I decided to stay with her for the sake of our family. For about 5 years, things were actually going well. We had romantic date nights, vacations, and seemed to really love each other. However, in the 6th year the affair was surfaced in my mind, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I finally made my decision after something my sister said. She struck a chord with me. Asked, would you really want to use the gift of life to spend it with someone who betrayed you so badly? This conversation happened a few days before my daughter's graduation, and that's when I decided I couldn't do it anymore. The day before my daughter's graduation I informed my wife of my decision and told I would be filing for divorce soon. She was shocked and cried a lot, pleading with me to reconsider, but I told her my decision was final. The graduation itself was great, and I was very proud of my daughter. My wife appeared happy, but my daughter noticed something was off and asked why her mom seemed sad and was trying to fake a smile. I told her not to worry about it and to enjoy the day. The following day I informed my daughter about the divorce. She was shocked and asked how I could do this to her mom right before graduation, suggesting that was why her mom couldn't fully enjoy the day. I told her it was none of her business and reassured her that regardless of what happens, we will both always love her. Now my wife and I are going through the divorce proceedings. Am I the now for the comments I get? It's tough, but the timing was terrible. Your daughter deserves joyful memories, not family chaos on her graduation day. She'll remember this forever. Then told her it was none of her business. Yikes. Yeah, it's definitely her business. He had 6 years to decide, but it had to be the one day prior to her graduation. Definitely an a-hole. Are you having a midlife crisis? You forgave her. You waited 6 years. Did a young chick make it? So these memories are hers first, and then you made a graduation about the divorce. Your daughter will forever remember that. Yes, my daughter, did have a really good time, and a graduation party was great too. We took lots of pictures and I'm sure she will remember the day fondly. The next day, however, I told my daughter about the divorce because she kept asking me about why her mom seemed so down. I did not really want to break the news to her so soon after graduation, but I really had no choice. Because she wanted to know the truth, my daughter of course was really sad about hearing it and she even broke down in tears. But divorce is just part of life, and both me and her mom still loves her. She is at college now, and I'm sure she'll get over it soon, and I don't really have a midlife crisis for some other woman I'm not even looking to date, at least for the next few years. My focus is on myself. At my family of origin you're the AOL. You could have waited a few days also if you were happy. Why did you let that line from your sister affect you so much? Are you easily influenced by others? Is the appearance of having always had a perfect marriage is so important to you? At the point to get a deeper and deeper understanding of the other person and ourselves. It wasn't just that line and it wasn't a spur of the moment thing. I was dwelling on it for the past years. And talking it out with my sis, she told me that it was finally time I put myself first, and that I deserved to be with someone who would unconditionally love me, someone who would be there for me through thick and thin, and someone who would never betray. My last story. Would I be the a-hole leaving my wife because she won't even try to find a job? For my wife, 41, female, and I, a 41-year-old male, was both laid off this past spring, receiving a 60-day notice and severance package. I took a month off and began job hunting at the end of May. At the end of June, I had started a new job. With great benefits and a good salary, my take-home pay is about $650 more per month than my previous job. My severance from my last employer will end around Thanksgiving. My wife's severance ended about a month and a half ago, but she hasn't bothered applying for unemployment or making any real effort to find a new job. She usually sleeps until 10 to 11 a.m. and then spends most of the day sitting in the living room watching cartoons on her laptop while knitting. I've tried being supportive and gentle, and I've also tried being firm about the fact that we can't afford to live on my income alone once my severance ends. We'll be in serious financial trouble. However, she doesn't seem to care enough to put in any effort into job hunting, and whenever I bring it up she shuts down. I'm now at the point where I'm considering taking our 8-year-old and moving out to live with my parents, possibly even in for divorce, because I can't cope with her complete lack of concern for how her behavior is affecting our family financially. Might an a-hole for feeling this way? Would I am the a-hole for actually leaving? Of course, you're not the a-hole for wanting her to be the same provider as she was before getting laid off. She wouldn't be happy either if it were you sitting on your all day while she works. I get taking some time off after a layoff, but not months. She should be actively pursuing a job search and want to get back to work, but she's happy sitting around, so it's almost impossible to motivate someone like that. Tell her she's pushing you out the door with her attitude, and if it were you sitting there playing video games all day instead of finding another job, she'd have the right to be angry at you too. She needs to know you're serious about this, and shutting down is not acceptable. She is displaying possible symptoms of depression. A change in employment status is a major life trust for her, and doing what she's doing is pure escapism for them. When someone is depressed, you should probably work on getting to the root of the issue instead of just repeatedly asking her when she's planning to get a job. Have you asked her anything about how she's doing or if there's anything she's interested in? I personally think it to rush straight to divorce when things get tough, because why bother getting married if you're just going to run when things aren't going how you thought? They would obviously be free to do whatever you feel is best, but maybe there are other issues going on that need to be worked. Our update, of course, just an hour after posting this I saw that she was on a state unemployment website applying for benefits. It's a start. After our daughter goes to bed tonight, I'm going to talk to my wife about how stressed I've been feeling and see if I can get her to open up about her own thoughts and feelings.